let's get started. I wanted to start with just kind of a survey of the major milestones leading up to the current day as it pertains to IT, because I have the I have the history in terms of my work life of going all the way back to not pre-computer, I'm not that old, but pre-PC actually, which is pretty old enough. So when I started my corporate career, I was working with a Fortune 500 company, and computers were not new. I mean, computers were, used. In fact, I was working for a computer company. Storage technology was making hard drives and tape drives for the computer industry, competing with IBM and Hitachi and Toshiba and companies like that. So computers were used, and in fact, some of the tools we use today were actually pretty mature, like ERP, MRP was part of our toolkit back then. But to get access to the computers, you pretty much had to use a terminal, and it was all text-based, no GUI whatsoever. It's all text-based. So this was 1981, again, dating myself when I started there. So my first milestone in terms of using computers during that first job that I had was transitioning to the use of PCs. PCs that could connect to the mainframe, but then PCs that could do things independently. So that was a major transformation. That took years really to kind of come in and developing in-house networks and things like that, and email. All of that was, say, 1980s. Now, the second major milestone was, which is kind of a minor one, but important, was the introduction of GUI. So we went from text-based and we transitioned to either Windows or Apple, Macs, where we were using a more sophisticated interface. So that didn't really change how we were doing things too much. It just made it easier, and that became the standard. Okay, so let's fast forward in terms of changes. We get then into the world of getting closer to today, where we actually have a new technology, AI. So up until from the GUI world until fairly recently, things were getting faster, things were getting better, but things didn't change that much really in terms of our work processes until we got to maybe a year ago. Because prior to that, we were using basically rules-based software where you would write the code and you'd write basically instructions on what the computer was going to do. And if you had a problem with that, you could go back and you could look at the code and fix the bugs. But now we're in a world where it doesn't quite work that way. You have a fairly simple, relatively simple program, but the machine learning algorithms are fed data, and things kind of develop in a black box. So now we're in a world where we have an AI system that is a little bit of a mystery in terms of how it's working, and it's not quite so easy to go in and fix the bugs. You don't know where they are. Now, maybe people are making progress in that area, but it's fundamentally a different kind of ball game where we're now interacting in a more human-like way with English or with language with these systems. So that's kind of where we are today. And here's kind of what we're experiencing now. On the next slide, we're experiencing a fire hose because the pace of change has accelerated so much. The speed of development is just quite overwhelming. So I'm mentioning this because in terms of a presentation like this one, all I can do really is scratch the surface. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to scratch the surface related to a specific type of job function or functions, but I don't want to give anyone the impression that we're going to be diving deep in terms of everything that might be possible, because it's really overwhelming. I'll give you an idea of that. We'll be looking at a website, or I was using a website called There's an AI for That. And if you want to go there yourself, that's the URL with no apostrophe and no spaces. There's an AI for that.com, I think it is. So when I started looking at this a week ago, and I did a screenshot that I have here of some of that, it was recording about 8,000 8,000 AIs, which is not a small number. So by AI, they mean like an app of some kind that does some kind of AI function. And then when I looked this morning, it was up to 8,800. So in 1 week, it jumped up by 800 AI apps. So that's really incredible. So that's where we are. So again, we're going to be drinking from a fire hose, but all I can do is take a couple sips from this fire hose without getting killed by the force coming through. All right. So here's this website I was using as kind of a basis for this presentation. And it's kind of an innovative thing. It's using AI to actually, research AI. And it's looking for three things basically, or structured this research, this compendium of AI apps in a number of different dimensions. So for example, one of them is how many AIs are out there, how many AI apps basically are out there. And like I told you a week ago, it was 8,017. And today, this morning, or at least as of an hour ago or so, it was about 8,885. So that's how fast that's growing. And then another dimension is tasks. So what do these AIs help us do? So they've identified over 2,000 kind of functions, tasks that the AI app could address. So that's not a small number either. And then finally, specific job descriptions, 4,847. Now that number didn't change very much. And that makes sense because the number of types of jobs is not something that's accelerating at that same speed as the number of AI apps, but 4,800 different types of jobs. And you can see some of the activity on the screen, 2 million users per month at this website. They claim to be the #1 AI aggregator. It creates a list of all the AI apps. And just today, when I did the screenshot, it was 171,000 people using this. So that's the scale of this whole thing, which is quite huge. All right, so let's dive down a little bit, and I'll share with you how I went about this email, and then we'll look into some specific AIs. So I was looking at different job descriptions, and I was kind of surprised because they had one called Lean Consultant, which is kind of what I am. Okay, so Lean Consultant, and there are 3 measurements here. So the first one is AI impact. So that's a percentage on a scale of 0 to 100, and I think what they had in mind here. And again, there's some kind of AI algorithm that determines this, but how much of the work of a lean consultant could be automated completely? So 30% is what they're saying right now. 30% is subject to automation through some kind of AI tool, presumably. And then how many specific job tasks are impacted that would be done by a lean consultant, right, that could be influenced in some way or another, maybe not at 30%, maybe more, maybe less, 290 different tasks, which is not a small number either. And then how many AI apps would apply to those tasks? Almost 2,000, so 1,995. So you can see my problem here in trying to do this webinar is just, it's like totally overwhelming. So all I could do really is review the top 10, the top 12 tasks that had the biggest impact from AI, and each one of those had multiple apps. So what I've done is tried to vet or curate that list for you, and we'll review some of my findings in this webinar. So let's see if this definition makes any sense too. What is a lean consultant? So it says here, I hope you can read this. I can on my screen, so I hope you can too. If you're looking at this on a phone, maybe you can't. But the description is a lean consultant is responsible for helping organizations improve their operational efficiency and eliminate waste. Okay. They provide guidance on implementing lean principles, yes, such as continuous improvement, value stream mapping, increase productivity, reduce cost, enhance overall performance. Okay, nothing to object to there really. And they analyze processes and recommend improvements to maximize efficiency and productivity. So that's pretty good, general description of what we do. Now, some of you watching this webinar maybe are not lean consultants. So maybe you're thinking, well, does this really apply to what I do? Well, let's take a look at some other job descriptions that that this website suggested might be impacted. So related jobs. So let's see if some of you fit into these categories as well. Business process consultant. They all have consultant in the term. So business process consultant, quality consultant, supply chain, and logistics. And all of them are impacted, looks like a low of 19% up to a high of 30%, like we saw for the lean consultant. So there's a wide range of different kinds of job descriptions, maybe not consultant, but maybe an internal lean resource, a lean specialist inside a company could be impacted in a similar kind of way. All right. And then there are other jobs that are not consultant or specialist, like industrial engineer. Industrial engineering is a big category. If you did a Google search on industrial engineering job title, you're going to find a lot of people. And this one is very similarly impacted. So 25%, 246 tasks, over 2,000 AIs that potentially could be used. And the description here seems to be accurate as well. The main difference here is they're putting more emphasis on data analysis for an industrial engineer. So industrial engineers, it says, often utilize data analysis, computer modeling to optimize systems and increase output. They work with a variety of industries and not just manufacturing. So in manufacturing, healthcare, logistics, et cetera. Okay, that's another potential job title that, that this webinar could be pertinent to. And then on the material side, so material manager. So who's a material manager? Material manager is responsible for overseeing the procurement, storage, distribution of materials for a company. They develop and implement inventory management, yes. Negotiate contracts with suppliers, yes. Ensure the company has adequate stock levels, sure. And they also manage a team of warehouse staff and ensure compliance with safety and quality standards. Okay, all of that sounds generally correct. All right, and again, 29%, very close to the 30%, 228 tasks and 1,600 AIs. So this is pretty significant, but we don't know if it's true yet. But what we're seeing here is that approximately a third of what these folks do, including you and me, potentially, could be automated or eliminated with these AI tools. And that's just right now and based on the algorithms that it's using to make that determination. Right, so let's get into it and drill down a little bit more. So I actually asked ChatGPT to give us a vision statement. So where is this all going? So we have this that are automated, maybe just as tools, but maybe completely, who knows? But what's the vision for the future? So I asked ChatGPT 4 to give us a vision statement. Where's this all going maybe in the relatively short term? So what it came back with was this, a vision statement. It says, imagine a factory where AI algorithms oversee the entire value stream, intelligently routing materials and people, manpower, for optimum efficiency. Within this system, specialized machine learning models will continuously analyze sensor data. So that's something I'm going to share with you in this webinar. I found an AI that was focused on that. So sensor data to predict when machines are likely to fail. In fact, there are even sensors you can buy today that you would, I haven't kicked the tires, tried this out myself, but from what I've read, you can attach it to a machine, and then based on what it's detecting, even the vibration and the sound of the machine, it's going to be monitoring that. And when that changes, it's potentially raising an alert. Maybe a bearing is starting to go bad. Maybe a tool is starting to get dull. It will notify you. So that's the kind of things we're talking about here. Scheduling preemptive maintenance and avoiding downtime, sure. And concurrently, NLP, so that stands for not neuro-linguistic programming, but natural language processing. Algorithms will process natural language, maintenance logs, feedback from operators. In other words, we can interface with this AI system with English, or with language, I should say, depending on whatever language you want to use. For a more holistic view of the production environment. Okay, all that sounds good. So we have AI as the wrapper, and then we have machine learning for specific cases where there's data, and it's monitoring and analyzing and finding patterns in that data. And then we have the NLP, which is kind of how we're interfacing as humans with this system. So that's what we're kind of looking at here in the future. And we do it with these AI apps. So back to, there's an AI for that.com. I'm showing you here a listing of the top, I don't know, it's maybe 12 or 14 tasks that it identified, and it's sorted in the order of impact. So the one at the top is the one that it's identifying as the potentially highest impact, 90%, it's saying. So that's a task that could be almost completely automated. And then it goes down the list. It drops down to 80%, 75, 65, etc. So what I did was, in preparing for this webinar, I started at the top and I went down the list, and where there was more than one, for example, ChatGPT for spreadsheets, there were 10 different apps that we could have chosen from, and model generation, there were 17, and data analysis, there were 84. So I was not going to go through 84 and try to test each one of those and give you a full review. What I did was I reviewed the list, and some of them were clearly not relevant, and some of them seemed to be relevant, and I looked through those and picked one and kind of did a more deeper dive, trying to actually use it. So that's what we're going to see here in the upcoming webinar, some of those results, right? So let's start with the first one, business process analysis. So this is the one that they claim, at least there's an AI for that, claims could be almost totally automated. So this was one that I could not actually test myself. The name of the company is Perceptive. And apparently what they do is they connect to your existing, assuming you're a larger company with these systems that actually exist, they connect to your existing systems. That could be ERP, MRP, MES, finance and accounting systems, whatever you've got out there, engineering, design systems, and actually dig in and analyze that data. So very much a data mining or a machine learning kind of application. It doesn't sound, looking at their website, it doesn't sound like that would be something that would be cheap, and it's not something that an individual would necessarily be able to use or need. But if you're a larger company, it might be something worth exploring. So it digs into your existing data, it finds patterns, and primarily it says here, it discovers underlying business processes and identifies opportunities for improvement, basically, in that. By the way, all of the ones we're looking at are related to process improvement. So anyway, my bottom line on this one was, don't really know, how good it is or how useful it would be, but it is out there, and it seems like it's a, more ambitious kind of app than simply something that's something that an individual could use. Their target market is larger companies with existing big data that can be mined, right, and analyzed. Okay, so I don't have a grade on that. Now, there is another company that we actually have worked with. There's a client of ours that is actually using this company called Praxi, and I've actually talked to the president of Praxi. I did a webinar, a Zoom session with him to find out more. And so Praxi is very much lean oriented and using AI tools to support that. And they have kind of a wide range of applications that they offer. In this one, the screenshot you're looking at right now, they have an A3 kind of analysis app or tool as part of their suite of tools. Where we were working with them, or are working with them, was in the realm of standard work, defining standard work definitions, tasks, line balancing, graphical or visual work instructions for operators on an assembly line, those kind of things. They also do dashboards, on a factory floor, dashboards showing KPIs for various departments, or even team level kinds of huddling dashboards for group huddles, capturing improvement ideas from the shop floor, those kind of things. So they have quite a wide range, and we like what we've seen so far with these guys. So, and they claim to be integrating AI into everything that they do. So it's another one worth checking out if you're interested in those kind of things. I think it's praxi. I'm not sure if it's proxy.com, but it might be, but you can find them on the internet. Okay, so going down the list here, I have my cheat sheet here. We're looking now at case studies. So here's one, and there were two apps for case studies. I actually tried this one called Case Study Writer, and I put in a case study. Actually put in data to see how it was going to do. And the thing that was kind of cool is it actually it asked me for a website, and the case study I used was a building that a project that my wife, who's an architect, had worked on. And they asked for the URL of her website, Boulder Architect, and boulderarchitect.com. So I put that in there. And then it asked me, it walked me through it like an interview process about the characteristics of the project. And then I clicked go when it was done. And it came back with actually a very well written, I thought, case study, that was able to draw on my wife's website, pull in a lot of personal data and background information, and really did a nice job. And it was in a format that obviously, could be edited later on and corrected if things weren't 100%. Now, this type of app, I'll have to say, is something that this is a term that I didn't make up. I've seen this, but I'll use it. It's called a chat wrapper. And a chat wrapper is basically an app that is prompting you for some input, and then it's taking that input and converting it into a prompt for ChatGPT or similar kind of AI tool like Claude or something like that. Anyone that has an API, and it's sending that information to ChatGPT, and then it's getting some information back and packaging it in a format that that you're actually seeing. So strictly speaking, these kind of apps, you wouldn't need them at all, because if you have access to ChatGPT, you could just type in that same prompt and presumably get back pretty much the same information directly from ChatGPT. But it is useful, if this is something you do on a regular basis, to have a front end like this that actually does that creates a well-designed prompt for you, and maybe ask you questions that you wouldn't think of. My experience with, querying ChatGPT directly is you may forget things and then have to kind of redo it. Oops, I forgot to mention this. Whereas if you're using a front end like this, it can remind you of all the necessary elements that make up a good prompt. So I'm not saying that a chat wrapper kind of app is useless and you should forget it and just go direct to ChatGPT or Claude, but I'm saying that it's probably not worth a lot of money to pay for this kind of thing. It's like a nice to have and not a completely necessary interface. But in any case, with this one, Case Study Writer, I thought it did a very nice job in terms of what I provided to it, and it came back and gave me a nice case study. So if you're doing, for example, internally, you're doing process improvement projects, you want to have a nice write-up at the end of what you did and what the benefits were and all that stuff. This might be a way of simplifying that kind of activity, because it only took really a few minutes and I got back a nice report instead of just starting with a blank Microsoft Word project or Microsoft Word page and just typing it in. All right, so I give this a high score, but again, any app that's a chat wrapper, it's somewhat optional. Now here's one, I'm going down the list here, decision making. Let me check it out here. Decision making, there were 5 different apps. And this is one that I think could be genuinely useful for a lean person or a lean specialist. What we typically do in our practice is when we run into decisions that need to be made and there's more than one choice and it's not obvious what the right choice is, we like to use what we call a decision matrix, where you list out all the possible outcomes. It's a little bit like a PFEP analysis that we would do, for those of you familiar with that. So we have all the different criteria that we might want to think about in terms of making our decision. And then across the top, think Excel spreadsheet here, we have all the different options. And we give them a score, like on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, where 10 would be super beneficial or 1 would be doesn't have any impact at all on that criteria. And then we calculate a score, and you can weight each of the criteria as well. So some are more important than others. So this is what we typically would do in order to put some science to making a decision. So it's not just gut feel. We have some data and we're trying to be scientific about it. And that's what we do. And that's been a very successful approach, getting a team together and getting consensus so that everyone agrees at the end of the day, rather than someone just making a decision. So Rationale tries to do that, and walk you through that kind of decision-making process. So I think in the future, we will actually start using something like this because it just provides some structure around it rather than just opening up a blank Excel file. It'll walk you through, and apparently they have four different techniques that could be used. So I think this could be very powerful when you have those kind of decisions to be made. What's the right one when we have multiple options? Something like this could be really useful. So I'm going to give this one a thumbs up in terms of for decision making. Good app to have in your toolkit, when you need it. All right, so here's another one. This could be really amazing. We have another challenge though, other than the wrapper, the chat wrapper issue. We have the issue of how many of these AI apps are still going to be around, a year from now or 6 months from now. This is one of them that seems really amazing, but it may be superseded, by the advances that are happening. So what is this? This is actually, if you look closely at the spreadsheet shown here, it looks like a Google Sheets, but these exist, the similar kind of applications exist for Excel directly. And what this does is it allows you to connect Google Sheets or Excel to OpenAI or to ChatGPT, and use, create queries from inside your spreadsheet. Very similar to how you would enter a function, as a formula. I know it's hard to see here. Maybe I can, let me try something here. I think I can change, give me a second. Oh, maybe I can't do it. So basically this opens the door within the spreadsheet environment, inside a spreadsheet, to actually do some queries and pull data from ChatGPT or maybe some other of these language models. So could be very interesting, very cool. Now, the reason I say, and this is spreadsheet.com, by the way, but there were quite a few of them. Spreadsheets, there were 10 as of a few days ago. So the caution though for going too far with one of these is that by the end of this month or beginning of November, Microsoft is coming out with what they call Copilot for Office, Office Copilot, and Excel is included in that. So I don't know what this is going to look like, but as far as I can tell, it's going to be kind of like this, but it's going to be built into Excel. And I think Google is working on something similar. So in the very near future, something like this may not even be necessary. So Copilot, Microsoft Copilot for Office is supposed to be out at the beginning of November for us ordinary folks. It's like in beta testing right now. So I think it would remain to be seen how it's going to work, but I suspect it's going to work kind of like this, where you can actually do queries, from directly inside of Excel, in native Excel, without having to have an extra app or pay for an extra app. So this looks pretty cool. I've actually tried this. It works as advertised. So this opens up like a lot of possibilities for working with spreadsheets. But again, I would hold off until we see what happens with Copilot or the work that Google has been doing. Okay, next one was proposals. So this one claims could be up to 60% automated. And I had 3 choices here. And this was mainly geared to people that are freelancers. It could be freelance lean consultants, or it could be people working on things like Fiverr or Guru.com who have to create, some responses to requests and they want to be accurate and be professional and come up with a written proposal. So what it looks like here, I didn't actually try this myself, but it looks like you create a profile with your information, and that might even include links to your website if you have one. And then you put in the details of this job spec. It's kind of similar to the case history that we saw earlier. And then you click generate, and it's going to generate a proposal that you can then edit and fine tune. This could be really good. Again, similar to the report that we saw earlier. The case history. That for cases where you have to summarize, maybe it's a business plan that you have internally, if you're an internal lean resource, and you want to do it, in a very professional way with specific data, but you don't want to spend hours and hours doing it, because these things get generated, and they're very well written, by the way. They may not always be completely accurate. We'll get into that in a minute, but they're usually very well written, and then you can modify that for internal uses. Or if I'm an external consultant, as I am, and customers want a proposal, this might be a really good way. What we typically do is we either start from scratch, or usually we find an old proposal that's similar to this one, and then we modify it and rewrite it. But it still takes hours for any proposal. So if this could speed it up and still be accurate, that would be a big help in terms of the time required to come up with these proposals. So I guess I would give, this is a chat wrapper kind of opportunity as well, by the way. So there's no reason why you couldn't go directly to ChatGPT and do some of these queries as well. But the fact that it's packaged and organized for our use is helpful. So as long as this isn't expensive. By the way, talking about expense, a lot of these apps are very affordable, but it can add up. If you've got 10 or 20 of these, they can add up. But the price range I've seen for these is in the range of maybe a low of $10 a month subscription. $20 is very typical, and up. And ChatGPT itself is $20 a month to get to the GPT-4. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Now, some of the other ones were way above that if they're really targeting a corporate kind of environment. Okay, let's go on to another one, goal achieving. This one I did try, and this one could be very useful for us. Goal achieving had 3 options. I picked one called Socra. And this could be useful in terms of developing value streams, because the output from this is a flowchart. It's kind of a roadmap. So we're big fans of roadmaps, just as a way of documenting the steps of doing something. And this is pretty much what Socra seems to do. So I created a sample. I entered some data for a hypothetical kind of goal. And it was actually quite good at asking the right questions, drilling down to a good level of detail, and then creating like a flow chart. So kind of a value stream map is what it was creating. So I was impressed, and I think I would go back and actually use this in the future. When we have something we want to accomplish, or a project you want to do, this might be a good first start, or might be sufficient to generate a structured kind of approach. What are the steps? How are they related? And give me a nice graphical image of that to accomplish that goal. So again, thumbs up on this one. This was not so much a chat wrapper. They seem to be doing some unique things with, with graphics and so, but still very, very well done. So I'd give a thumbs up on this one as well, as something you could put in your toolkit as a lean specialist. Okay, now this is one, model generation. This is one, it's a little bit down on the list, but still in the top 10. And there were 17 different tools here. Now, what this is proposing is to build an app for you. Now, this is maybe one reason why there's so many of these AI apps, because if you just want to do a chat wrapper app, it sounds like you could use one of these tools and do it pretty easily. As long as you're just creating a prompt, you're going out to ChatGPT, and then you're returning some information, and you're kind of packaging that. And I suspect most of these apps we're looking at here are in that description, meet that description. So there are 17 tools out there to build your own AI app. So again, this could be useful if you want to kind of standardize certain kinds of prompts and not have to have different people reinventing the wheel. This could be very useful, even as an in-house, a private kind of AI app could be useful. So I haven't tried using this yet, but I plan to, and I'll tell you what I have planned here at the end of the webinar. I plan to try something like this. Okay. Now, in case you were thinking, what about the other 17? This may be very hard to read on your screen. It's kind of dark, but there were lots of other options. So I was looking at them, and most of them were kind of very similar. It said, create an app, create a model with no coding was a big feature of a lot of these. So they would walk you through an interview process and then generate the app for you, basically. What are you trying to do? What's your goal? What kind of questions do we want to ask, et cetera? And then it would all package it together into an app. So most of these kind of fit into that model. So I did not actually try out these. I can't give you a grade on these, but there were a lot of options and probably more coming, every day. All right, so lots of choices there. Now here's one that's really interesting. And this was under data analytics. Now data analytics had 84 different options. So this was quite overwhelming, but I picked one because it seemed to be relatable, and it's called Focus. Focus.live. And what they're proposing here is to connect AI, and this is not a chat wrapper at all, but connect a sensor to AI and provide you with basically real-time kind of feedback. So if you go to their website, you'll see some videos that kind of demonstrate what they're talking about, but the examples they gave mostly had to do with cameras. So this seems like something that has a lot of potential. For example, what if you had a camera focused on an assembly line and you're asking AI to watch it, watch the amount of time where people are working versus the time they're leaving the line to get materials, all kinds of opportunities to observe the work and then provide some kind of feedback in terms of opportunities for improvement. And that's kind of what they're proposing here. So again, I didn't try this, but this is what they're claiming that they can do. It says the tool provides visitors analytics, service performance analysis, heat maps, facial recognition. It almost sounds like Big Brother, doesn't it? Makes some of us a little nervous maybe. And it says Focus Live is trusted by various industries, retail, like stores, factories, okay, that's good. Warehouse work, well, that's good too. Offices, et cetera, healthcare, sporting events. So lots of opportunities here, but this one is intriguing. And the company's in Kazakhstan, if you can believe that. Not Silicon Valley, they're off in Kazakhstan. So good for them. So this seems like it's something that, again, could be pretty powerful. You point a camera at a process, connect up AI, and then AI will watch it and give you feedback on what it's seeing, maybe with some guidance from you. All right. So again, potential thumbs up, but unknown exactly how this is going to work, but good potential for the future. Okay. So that's it for the categories. And remember, there were 290 of them, and I got through about 8 of them, I think, with some feedback. So this is, again, a complete fire hose, even on the apps that seem to apply to what we do as process improvement specialists. Now, there are lots of people, other than doing it yourself, there are lots of people out there willing to help. So I found a couple, and especially in the world of lean, like here's a company, and they are not alone, and I have no knowledge of them, so I'm not endorsing them, but they exist, called MSBCgroup.com. It says upgrade lean manufacturing with AI-powered custom software. So if you wanted to, develop something internally, and you wanted some outside help, here's some people that apparently focus on lean manufacturing kinds of opportunities and AI, and they will help you do it. But I'm sure they're not the only ones out there. There are probably dozens or hundreds of people that could also help you. Now, this is a special mention because I found this was really, really cool. I'm a big fan, I hate to admit it, I'm not a big fan of social media. Like I barely have a Facebook account. I have no accounts with, I do not have a Twitter account. I do not have a lot of these social media accounts, but I do have a YouTube account. I'm kind of a YouTube fan because I find it helpful in terms of learning things. I'm not talking about conspiracy theories. I'm talking about, science and things like that, or how to do things. Like, how do I fix my car? I can find, useful feedback. And this ytclass.co was pretty cool. It's basically focused on learning and YouTube. And basically you would type in, what do you want to learn? And it's using AI in some way or another to pull up the most relevant YouTube videos related to any subject. So I tried it out. I've been using it, and I tried to find really obscure subjects like how do I grow? I did this. This is literally what I did. How do you grow mushrooms at home with store-bought mushrooms in a bucket? Boom! It found like 20 YouTube videos, and you can kind of vet them. See which ones look more interesting and pick one. Now, is that different from what you could just do in YouTube? You type in a YouTube search. Yeah, it seems to be. I don't know why, but it seems to be different. Because obviously in YouTube, you can do a search on something, but this seems to be a little bit different. I don't know why. But I thought this was pretty cool, and I thought I'd throw it in here and mention it to you. Using AI to find learning images. Now, here's a caution I need to throw out here. You've probably heard before, and if you've been to some of my previous AI webinars, I say this every time, that we can't really trust 100% what it's coming back with right now. Maybe in the future, I don't know. So that's why if we know what we're doing, then this could be a really great tool, because if you can check it, if you can check its work, that's very helpful. If you can't check it because you're not knowledgeable enough, then you could find yourself going down the wrong path in terms of what's coming back. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, so this is all hot off the press, I took a map that we use in one of our workshops, in our material workshop. So this is a layout you see here of a hypothetical factory, not a real one, hypothetical factory that builds bicycles. And we use it to design as an exercise, right, as a learning exercise, designing delivery routes. So how do we deliver material to all these stations that have a person, which is like the circle with the half circle around it, in the most efficient way, right? So we're not backtracking. So it's the shortest travel time, the shortest distance, but we still have to cover all of the stations as a delivery route for a tugger, let's say. So ChatGPT has recently added the ability to upload images. So I uploaded this image, and I said, without any further prompting, I said, what do you see here in this image? And it came back with a detailed description. I see a factory layout. I see these following stations, assembly station 1, 2, up to 10. I see these other stations. This apparently looks like a bicycle factory. True. So very, very accurate and impressive. It even discussed the use of FIFO lanes, buffers, and, it gave a quite accurate description of what I fed it. But then I said, okay, so here's what we want to do. Imagine that we have a tugger. The tugger can only go forward. It can't go backwards. And we want the tugger to be able to deliver material to every station that has a person at it. And we want to do that in the most efficient way. So we, ideally not backtracking, always going forward and doing that in theoretically the shortest distance. And each one of these squares is 5 feet, by the way. So go see what you can do. And within a few seconds, it came back. It was very happy to do that, and came back with an analysis that was completely wrong and crazy. And so I looked at what it was recommending, and I said, well, I offered it some improvement ideas. I said, you can't go from here to there the way you're suggesting. You'd have to go around, and you're passing some other stations. And it was very apologetic. I'm talking about ChatGPT. I'm sorry, you're right. let's do this again. But every suggestion it came back with was just not good. So in terms of doing that kind of work, fail. So we have to be, I guess the message here is we have to be a little bit cautious in terms of our expectations in terms of what we're going to do. What I found is that if you can be very specific with the request and typically focused on language, then it can be really good, good results. But if you're asking it to do math or asking it to do this kind of analysis, not so good yet. Who knows a few months from now when they come out with the GPT-5, ChatGPT 5, maybe it'll be great at it. But for now, you have to be cautious in terms of what you're doing and basically check everything that comes out of it. So you've heard that before, I'm sure. I'm just reiterating here that it's still true. It hasn't gotten to the point where it's no longer true. All right, so summary of this whole experience here. And we're doing pretty well on time, aren't we? Majority of AI apps are chat wrappers. So I'm not saying that's bad, but you can basically, if you're good enough at writing prompts, you can probably get something similar or identical just by querying Claude. Claude is another ChatGPT type of AI model that I use, which is Claude, by the way, is better at more text. You can submit longer documents and it'll actually analyze PDFs. I don't know what it does, absorbs PDFs or Word documents a little bit better than ChatGPT. So chat wrapper is not a bad thing, but that's the reason I think there's so many of them, is that a lot of them are not that hard to create. And so, and a lot of them probably are going to go away in the future. They're not going to survive because there's going to be something easier that's going to take its place. Now, in terms of using any of these tools, it's important to have a goal. So again, go back to the fire hose. If you don't know exactly what you're trying to accomplish, you can be overwhelmed immediately with all of these options. So the more specific you can be in terms of what you're trying to do, the better, because otherwise you're going to be overwhelmed with all the choices that are out there. So be as specific as you can be in terms of what you're trying to accomplish with an AI app. But having said that, the general rule of the internet in general, this has been true for a long time, is that if you've thought of something, someone else has already thought of it. It's kind of my rule. Not only someone else, but probably 10 other people, and there are probably websites and products and a whole user group, or 10 of them, already active on whatever brilliant idea you may have come up with. So if you've come up with something totally new, congratulations, you probably haven't, right? Doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It means that probably someone's already thought of it. So that's the good news, is that if you come up with an idea and you're looking for an app, you can probably find it. It's probably out there. Now, there's some recent big game changers in terms of the whole AI, ChatGPT world, in that it can now process images, voice, data sharing is coming up. I mentioned Claude will accept documents. ChatGPT will accept images. And I believe that DALL-E, the image generator part of OpenAI, is now integrated into ChatGPT. So anyway, bottom line here, final recommendation is, I think it behooves us to get into this if you're not already, because it's coming, it's happening. If you're not, someone else is going to do it, and and someone else is going to be faster and maybe better at whatever it is you're trying to do if you're not using AI in some way or another, and they are. So, there was an article recently. I'll show this to you. It was, I think, just last week. It was, I don't know if you can read this or not. It looks backwards on my screen, but it was a Wired magazine, and the title of the main article was "Dear AI Overlords, Don't F This Up." And they had a picture of the president of OpenAI and some other folks I'm not familiar with. So that's a concern, right? Longer term, we have a concern, but right now AI seems to be a tool, and if we're not using it, then someone else is going to use it, right? And this applies to a lot, not just the lean world, but almost anything like programming. ChatGPT is happy to write code. Now, again, is it perfect? No. Does it need to be vetted? Yes. But could you potentially double, triple, the productivity of a programmer using this? Yes. So, again, I'm kind of preaching to the choir, I'm sure here, but that's where we're going. So, get on it. Now, last thing, we have a website that we've been developing over the last few years called the Lean Design Studio. So the Lean Design Studio is our repository of all things related that we have related to mixed model manufacturing. So that's our niche. That's our wheelhouse in terms of the world of Lean. So how do you design an assembly line? John Deere hired us to help them do that, right, and develop their training materials and so on. So we know something about that. And how do you design a material delivery system? That's another thing that we're specializing in. That's another thing that John Deere asked us to help them with, in developing all their training materials, their John Deere University courses, etc. So those are our specialties. So, and the Lean Design Studio is where we put our courses, our webinars, videos, tools, software, simulation modeling software is all in this website. Now, with AI, what do we have planned? Well, I guess what I'm pre-announcing to you is that we have in development, don't completed, but what I have in mind would be an AI-driven, one-click line design and simulation modeling tool. So basically, if you have an Excel worksheet that we use for decades, that list the products, the processes, the time, work content times, the volumes for design purposes that you want to use, all in one sheet, and you load that into this tool, that what you'll get back is takt time calculations accurately done correctly for every process, number of resources, number of people, number of machines for every process, an initial layout, and a simulation model that you can use to test the design, with changes in mix and volume, et cetera, with one click. So I think that's going to be cool. I think that's possible. Making good progress so far, and certainly you'll know about it when we have it. But that's an exciting thing that we're doing on our side to advance the use of AI for lean purposes. Okay, so with that, that's all I have for you. If you have any questions, I can go over to chat. Anything, I haven't been looking at it, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to address them. What was the name of the app for proposals? I'll have to, app for proposals. Proposal Genie? Okay, is that it? Proposal Genie? All right. Hopefully. You can go to, if you need any of that information, you can go to, there's an AI for that. That's free. There's an AI for that.com, I think it is. And you can do those searches that I just showed you. And you can find that. Will that one-click AI be part of the Lean Design Studio? Yes, that's the idea. It would be, a tool that we would be adding to the Lean Design Studio. However, well, yeah, I don't see why not. There would have to be a connection to the AI engine, right? So I'm not sure how all that gets paid for, but I think the answer initially is yes. Okay. Okay, so I'm just reviewing here the chat. Okay, Praxi, yeah, Praxi was a A3 app, yes. Okay, so if that's all there is, thanks so much for participating, everyone, and we'll look forward to the next one. I'm trying to do a webinar every couple of weeks. Doing one every week is too much, but every 2 or 3 weeks, I'd like to get one of these similar things, not just on AI. We're doing a lot of different things, but all kind of relevant to our domain, our wheelhouse of of lean manufacturing and mixed model manufacturing. Okay, so thanks again, everyone. And we'll see you all in the future, I hope. Okay, bye-bye.